Hi everyone, I'm Steven. Welcome to Enjoy English School.
I'm Minnie.
All right, and today is September 10th, and for the next 2 days, we're going to be covering pages 28 to 31, and it is going to be on the topic of destinations with the title, Take a Ride on the Trans-Siberian Railway.
那我们今天呢，9月10号的部分，我们这2天会在28到31页。那我们这个行遍天下这个主题啊，我们这2天要讲的是下一站西伯利亚铁路之旅哦。
Come along as we take you on one of the world's greatest railroad journeys.
那就让我们带领你一同前往世上最广阔的铁道之旅之一吧。
Actually, I never even knew about the Trans-Siberian Railway, so I'm really eager to learn more about it today.
Yes, me too.
Let's get started. There are many ways to travel.But there's something special about touring the world by train.
旅行的方式呢，有五花八门，很多种类。但是搭火车旅游、游览世界呢，有它特别的地方。
Right, so here we see the word touring. Another word you could use is traveling, right? T-R-A-V-E-L and I-N-G if you're in that form. So there's something special about traveling the world. When we say there's something special, it's kind of saying, it's not telling you what that special thing is yet, but there's something special, and it seems like we're going to talk more about what's so special about it later. And here we see by train. So whenever you take a certain way of transportation, like by car or by airplane, we'll use the preposition by.
那在这边呢，我们可以看到 there's something special about， 其实用这样子 there is there are 句型开头，后面又加了 special， 就代表我们要强调我们等一下要讲的东西非常特别。那用这样的句型就可以先吸引别人的眼球，让别人注意说，等一下你听到的东西很特别哦。接下来我们后面可以看到这个 by train， 用 by 这个介系词来当做是有点像借由火车。那 by train 同时在国中的英文里面我们有学过 ，you can also say take the train。Take
the train, right. All right, let's continue. In Russia, a rail line that is unlike any other stretches over 9,000 kilometers from Moscow to the far east of the country.
那俄罗斯有一条与众不同的铁路，它是从莫斯科延伸9000多公里来到俄罗斯远东的地区。
So here,there's a lot of information going on, so I want to separate it. So in Russia, a rail line stretches over 9,000 kilometers. Okay, so that is like the main point of the sentence. But here, because the sentence wants to give more information about the rail line and how far it stretches or how far it extends, that's why we have a rail line that is unlike any other, stretches over 9,000 kilometers. Okay, so this is just additional information about the rail line. Okay, so don't be intimidated when you see so much information. Try to point out what the main subject of the sentence is and try to see what are some of the extra additional information that the sentence is trying to tell you. So what does it mean by unlike any other? That means that this rail line is unique. U-N-I-Q-U-E. So it's very different. It's very unique from any other railroad, okay? Any other rail line. And what does it mean by stretches? I mentioned earlier the word extends. E-X-T-E-N-D, in this format with an S. Okay, that means it like reaches over 9,000 kilometers. And from where to where? From Moscow to, okay, so from A to where? From Moscow to the far east of the country. And here we see far east because Russia is a very big country.
It is.
So that's why it's trying to emphasize that it's on the far east side of the country.
那这个句子啊，它给我们很多的资讯。首先，我们先来把 that is unlike any other 上引号下引号夸起来。把这个句子夸起来之后呢，你就可以发现，如果把这个句子遮掉，其实这已经是一个完整的句子。那为什么我还要加 that is unlike any other 呢？因为我们要来强调这个 rail 这个铁路，它不像其他人一样。那老师刚刚有说，我们刚刚上引号下引号夸起来这个地方，它又可以用另外一个形容词，也就是 unique。 独特的、独一无二的这个字来形容它。那再来 stretch 这个字，我们还可以用 extend extend， 它其实就是延展、扩展的意思。stretch 它其实是延伸的意思嘛。那我们延展、扩展开来有9000公里这么远，对
over
对，对更多的。那我们在这边可以看到另外2个很重要的介词词叫 from A to B， 所以它这边就是从 from 莫斯科到这个 far east 远东的地方。
It's called the Trans-Siberian Railway, or TSR, and to take a ride from end to end is truly a long journey.
那这一条铁路就被称为西伯利亚铁路。那从起点搭车到终点呢，这一趟旅程是扎扎实实的一个长途之旅哦。
And here, trans, this word means like across, okay? So across Siberia, railway, okay? And since Siberia, 的东西, so it's Siberian, okay? And for short, we call it TSR. So when I'm reading that, you could hear it's called the Trans-Siberian Railway. TSR. So there's like a pause there to let the listener know that I'm giving an abbreviation, a short version of Trans-Siberian Railway. The first time I read it, I said Trans-Siberian Railway, or also known as the TSR, okay? And to take a ride from end to end. From here we see from A to B, just like we saw in the previous sentence.
Yes.
But here it's saying from one end of Russia to the other end, so from west to east, is truly a long journey. So this word here, this adverb truly, it means it's really a long journey.
那这边老师有特别提到这个 Siberian， 它后面我们看到加了 n， 对不对？所以加了 n 其实之后它就变成是西伯利亚的，或者是西伯利亚人。那在这边我们是用一个 adjective 一个形容词的形式出现，代表它就是西伯利亚的 railway 铁路。那然后老师刚刚这边有讲说 trans 这个字它其实就是横跨。across 的意思，那后面括弧呢？它告诉你它的缩写。老师刚刚有特别讲到一个字 abbreviation， 这个字就是缩写，所以它叫做 TSR。那我们生活中也有很多常见的 abbreviation， 例如像我们每天都在做的 MRT 捷运啊，或者是像是 high speed railway。High speed rail 高铁啊，这些 HSR 这些就是我们所谓的 abbreviation。然后再来，我们又可以看到 from A to B，from end to end。这边的 end to end 指的就是这边的这个终点到另外一边的那个终点 ，from end to end 这样子的用法。然后刚刚老师有说 truly， 它又可以用另外一个字来形容 really， 就是我们常常用的，真的吗？真的的那个字 really。
Let's take a short break. The TSR crosses 8 time zones.
那这个西伯利亚铁路呢，它横跨8个时区这么多。
Right, so we don't want to keep saying Trans-Siberian Railway over and over. So now, from now on, because we already introduced the abbreviation for Trans-Siberian Railway as TSR, we can use TSR from now on, okay? So the TSR goes across. We could also say that as well. 8 time zones. So different time zones are like, Taiwan is in one time zone and Thailand is in another time zone because they have a 1 hour difference from us. So that's 8 time zones. Wow.
Yeah, that is a lot. 对。那我们刚刚有讲过 TSR 它的全写，所以接下来往后呢，我们全部都用它的 abbreviation， 也就是缩写来代表它，这样我们才不用一直念那么长的字，对不对？然后再来 8 time zone 8个时区，这边 time zone 指的时区，例如像台湾有一个时区，那可能泰国也有另外一个时区，中间有大概1个小时的时差，那我们就称为这个叫时区。
It covers the distance between Moscow in the west and Vladivostok in the east.
Wow, that's
Pardon my Russian. I don't speak Russian.
OK， 所以呢，它这个涵盖了从西边的莫斯科到东边的海参崴，连中文都有点难，如此长的一个距离哦。
Okay, so it covers, another word we could use here is it extends over. So just like in the previous paragraph, it stretches, right? We sell stretches.
延伸
Yes, here covers is like another way to say that. And so here we could use extends over the distance between A and B. But here we see Moscow in the west, okay, telling us that Moscow is located in western Russia, and Vladivostok in the east, okay?
Yeah, 所以在这边我们刚刚一直看到 from A to B 嘛，那这边我们又可以看到一个 between A and B， 那就是从 A 点到 B 点之间的意思 between，OK？、所以在这边我们讲的是西边的莫斯科，还有在什么之间呢？还有跟东边的这个海参崴之间。
In spite of its great length, going between the two cities takes just 7 days.
那即使呢距离如此之长，只要7天的时间就可以穿梭2个城市。
So in spite of, we could also use despite, D-E-S-P-I-T-E. If you use despite, you don't need the preposition of. You could say despite its great length, okay? So both of these mean about the same thing, and they're just trying to say the next thing we're going to talk about is not affected by the factor we talked about before. So the factor we talked about before is that even though there's such a great distance between Moscow and Vladivostok, this TSR, this great length that it goes through, it only takes 7 days, so it goes really fast. Okay, so in spite of 可以是 despite, and length 这个 length, right?
Yes,
长度.
长度.
It could also be pronounced length or length. It depends on where you're from. Some people say length, some people say length. Okay, it goes between the two cities, and it only takes, so it only requires 7 days. And the just here, you could also use the word only, O-N-L-Y, and I just said requires, right? I can spell that for you too. R-E-Q-U-I-R-E.
OK， 所以在这边我们可以看到一个句子很常用的一个词，它叫做 in spite of。那 in spite of 你又可以写成 despite， 但是要特别注意，当你写成 despite 的时候，我们后面就不需要再加 of。那它就是即使、尽管的意思，就有点像是我们一个要讲，虽然说距离很长，但是只要花7天；尽管距离很长，但是我们只要花7天，就有点像是这样子的句型下去做使用。那再来，老师有特别讲到 length length 长度的名词，它又可以发音成
length. Right.
对，所以还有2个发音都是正确的。然后 between the two cities takes 这边的 take take 也是花费，但我们这边当花时间哦，花时间 take just 7 days.
Okay. The speed of travel today is much faster than in the late 19th century when the railway project began.
那现在的这个速度呢，比19世纪末的时候要快多了。在那个时候，新建铁路的计划才正要开始。
So here, let's pay attention to the preposition in, okay, after much faster than. If I didn't have that preposition in, it would be the speed of travel today is much faster than the late 19th century. It would be talking about the speed of today is faster than that time period. But we are talking about the speed in that time period. So that preposition is quite important. We're not talking about the travel speed of the train today is faster than that time period. Right. So in Chinese, if you could help me explain that, it's a little difficult,
Yeah.
right?
所以在这边我们可以看到说 faster than in the late 19th century， 它是比19世纪的那个时候。
那个时光，
那个时间还要更快速。那我们其实这边要比较的是那个时代的 speed， 那个时代的速度。
没错，
对，
就是
所以我们是拿速度这件事来比较，我们不是拿时间来比较，所以我们才需要加这个 in 去强调说我们指的是那个时代的这个速度。
因为很多人可能会觉得为什么会有个 in 在那边？
exactly.
其实这个小小的介系词可以让这个整个 sentence 这个整个句子的意思比较调整的，让大家比较更正确知道你的意思，不是在跟这个时间比较，而是跟那个时间内的那个速度比较。Okay, and that's when in the 19th century is when that railway project began.
Yes.
Okay. Back then, traveling through Siberia meant going by river in spring and summer.
那以前呢，要穿梭西伯利亚，就代表着春夏之间，你要这样渡河而行。你可能过去就一季就结束了，这么久。
So back then is talking about in the past, okay? 过去的时候 traveling through Siberia meant 这个 meant 不是意思说意思是 it means signifies, okay? S-I-G-N-I-F-I-E-S 代表 you had to go through by river. So here, just like we saw in the first paragraph, by train, by river means that you're traveling through that river, okay? Or you're traveling next to that river, okay?
代表他要真的要渡河，要感觉好像要游泳或坐船过去的感觉 ，right?
Right, so you're just going by that river.
Yeah.
During winter, people could travel along the same frozen rivers.
那在冬季则是一样，同样的，你要在结冰的这个河上面去做一个这样子进行，然后经过的动作，好辛苦啊。
Right, yeah. This greatly limited development of the region.
那这样的情况呢，着实限制了西伯利亚地区的发展。
So limited, another word we could use is restricted, okay? Restricted, okay? It restricted the development of that region.
代表很有限制的。
That's why Russia decided to do something about it.
那这也是为什么俄国呢就决定要大刀阔斧的改善这样的情况。
Right, they want to make sure that they want to change that so it's not so limited and it makes it easier for traveling.
他们要把这个限制破除掉。
All right, let's take a short break. Russia began to build the TSR in 1891, and it took many years to complete.
那俄国呢，它在1891年的时候开始动工兴建这个西伯利亚铁路，历时很多年才完工。
So here we see the word take going along with time again. So it took many years to complete. So oftentimes when we say we need to spend time doing something, we'll say that it takes time doing something.
那我们刚刚上一段的时候有用 take 当花费花时间，那我们这边又再度看到了 took many years 花了很多年的时间 to do something， 所以他用虚主词 it 开头嘛，他真的要讲花很多时间是在 to 后面的动词。
Right, so if Minnie 老师 painted a picture, right, and I said, oh, how long did that take you? Okay, 这个花你多少时间把这个画出来 okay?
I'll say like it took me 3 days to paint.
Exactly. So you can use take with time to tell how long it took. Okay? Once it was finished, lots of people began moving to Siberia, as many as 4 million by 1914.
Wow! 所以有许多人新建完成之后，有许多人就开始移入这个西伯利亚地区。从1914年移入民众一度，就是那个时候1914年移入的民众一度多达400万人哦。
Right, and I really like this sentence because there's a lot of things that we can share here. The first thing is, once it was finished, this once does not mean 一次. It doesn't mean one time. It means once, like the moment it happened, when it was finished. These are all different ways to say the same thing, okay? So when it was finished, lots of people. Here we could say a lot of people. If you say a lot, then no S at the end of lots. Or many people began moving to Siberia. Lots is just a very casual way that we sometimes try to represent many, okay? So lots of people began moving to Siberia. Here we have an M dash, that line, to give us more information about just how many people, okay? As many as 4 million. Okay, so that means maybe it wasn't more than 4 million. It could be more or it could be less. As many as, okay, in that around that amount, okay, as many as 4 million by 1914. This by, the preposition here, it means before 1914. Okay.
所以在这边，老师刚刚有特别讲到 once it was finished 这个 once， 我们通常都说 once a week 是一周一次嘛，但在这边的 once 指的是它一旦完成之后，就是 when it was finished， the moment it was finished， 代表说这个时间点一旦完成之后呢，很多的人 lots of people 或者是 many people， 甚至是 a lot of people。那要特别注意，如果你写 a lot 的话 ，lot 就没有 s， 如果你写 lots of people， 那就没有二选一使用。然后呢 ，began moving to Siberia， 然后中间有一个杠杠，指的是它要延伸说明移去这个地方。那很多人是有多少人呢 ？As many as 就跟这个数字一样多，400万就跟这个数字一样多。OK，by 1914， 这个 by 呢，它就是指说。在1914年以前就有这么多人移进来了。
It was the beginning of a new era on the Russian frontier. And here, era means a long and distinct period of history. Okay? And what does frontier mean? It means a line or border separating two countries, because the Trans-Siberian Railway, it actually it's kind of in between Russia and almost reaches like China, Mongolia, and Kazakhstan.
那接下来呢，它就开启了俄国边境的一个新的世代。那我们刚刚这边有讲到 era 这个字就是一个世代、一个时代的意思。然后那个 frontier 这个字就是所谓的边境，就可能比较接近中国，就是 Mongolia 蒙古啊那一个区域就开始兴盛起来了。
All right, and let's go to the review. All right, Minnie 老师, if I'm touring Russia, what does that mean?
That means you are traveling, 在旅游。
And this railway, the TSR, stretches over Russia. What does that mean?
就代表它延伸，就整个俄罗斯。
It covers the distance from Moscow to Vladivostok.
所以这个 cover 呢，它就跟 extend 一样，也是延伸，代表它遍布整个地方。
Okay, so in spite of this great distance, this great length,It only takes 7 days.
Yeah, 尽管它有这样子这么长的距离，只花7天就到了。
In the past, there was a lot of limited development on the TSR because of weather conditions.
对，然后在以前的地方，我们有很多 limited 有限制的 development， 就是我们限制的发展。
Because it took many years to complete.
Complete 这个字呢，就是完成的意思。Complete.
Okay, and what is an era?
Era 就是一个世代，一个时代。
Okay, and what is a frontier?
Frontier 就是一个边境，例如像边境。
Oh, there's a frontier here, I guess, or a boundary. All right, thank you guys so much for joining us today. Tomorrow we're going to continue with this subject, and we hope to see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
第28页行遍天下，下一站西伯利亚铁路之旅。
Take a ride on the Trans-Siberian Railway. There are many ways to travel, but there's something special about touring the world by train. In Russia, a rail line that is unlike any other stretches over 9,000 kilometers from Moscow to the far east of the country. It's called the Trans-Siberian Railway, TSR, and to take a ride from end to end is truly a long journey. The TSR crosses 8 time zones. It covers the distance between Moscow in the west and Vladivostok in the east. In spite of its great length, going between the two cities takes just 7 days. The speed of travel today is much faster than in the late 19th century when the railway project began. Back then, traveling through Siberia meant going by river in spring and summer. During winter, people could travel along the same frozen rivers. This greatly limited development of the region. That's why Russia decided to do something about it. Russia began to build the TSR in 1891, and it took many years to complete. Once it was finished, lots of people began moving to Siberia, as many as 4 million by 1914. It was the beginning of a new era on the Russian frontier.